Thank you, Jess. Right, good morning and welcome to this formal meeting of the Children's and Cultural Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Brenda Collier and I am the chairperson of this committee. On my right is my vice chairman, Councillor Stuart Grantham, and on my left is our Democratic Service Officer, Jess Wasser-Yates, and also present in the council chamber is our scrutineer, Tracy Johnson. Welcome. I would like to begin with a health and safety announcement. There's no fire drill planned this morning, but in the event of the fire alarm sounding, we need to leave the council chambers through the rear door and leave the building through the reception area into the front car park and wait for further instructions, please, for that. Let's hope the alarm doesn't go for us. This meeting is being streamed live via the County Council's website, and all of your comments will remain accessible online after the meeting and can be reported by the media. With this in mind, I would like to welcome members of the public and press watching our meeting today. Welcome. Can I remind everyone to ensure their mobiles, laptops and iPads are on silent for the duration of this meeting, please. The hearing loop is now activated. Requests to speak will be collated by the Vice Chair. If you wish to speak, can you please raise your hand and hold it there until Councillor Grantham has acknowledged you in some form that he knows you're wanting to speak. Thank you. When invited to speak, you should press the button on your microphone unit to make it live, and please speak directly into your microphone so that we can all hear nice and clear, please. And when you have finished, which I have to remember to switch the microphone off again. Right, we will now move on to the formal agenda. Item 1, apologies and absence for replacement councillors. Jess, do we have any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies from Paul Brewster, the Church representative, and Dr. Emile van der Zee, the Parent Governor representative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have item 2, declarations of councillors' interests. Members of the committee are reminded that they only need to declare any relevant interests which have not been declared on their declaration of pecuniary interests form. If you become aware of any interests at any point during the meeting, you can declare it then. Any interests declared will be recorded in the minutes. Do any members wish to declare any interests, please? Okay, we're all happy with that. Thank you. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting of the Children's and Cultural Scrutiny Committee held on the 20th of June 2025. This item is to approve and sign the minutes of the last meeting of the Children's and Cultural Scrutiny Committee held on the 20th of June 2025 as a correct record. The minutes can be found on pages 5 to 12 of the agenda pack. Do I have a proposer, please, and a seconder? Thank you. Thank you. We will now vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. I think that's unanimous. No? Okay. Are those against, please? Anyone against? Okay, that was a unanimous.
I'm only abstaining because I wasn't here on the 20th of June.
I'm sorry, I can't.
I'm only abstaining because I wasn't here on the 20th of June.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Thank you. So those minutes are agreed then, thank you. So item 4, announcements by the chairman, executive councillors and lead officers. Just to make the committee aware, I am planning to hold a 10-minute comfort break before item 7, so we can all go out together, save people wandering in and out and disturbing the meeting. If you can wait, please. Thank you. So moving on, are there any executive councillors' announcements from, sorry? Thank you, Natalie Oliver, executive councillor. Thank you for Children's Services.
Thank you, Chair. So we have recently had a focused visit from Ofsted in relation to our care leavers service. And I would like to thank the dedicated staff across the whole of Children's Services in Lincolnshire. Ofsted's focused visit confirms that the team in Lincolnshire care deeply about the young people they support and go above and beyond every day. Inspectors found strong relationships, genuine commitment and clear evidence that care leavers feel valued, supported and listened to. That's down to the professionalism and passion of the people working on the ground. Of course, there are areas for improvement, particularly around planning and recording, and I will be looking closely at how those are addressed. But the report is a real credit to staff and a sign that the service is on a very strong footing for the future. So well done to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Finally, are there any announcements from any of our senior officers?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, everybody happy with that? No announcements, thank you. Item 5 then, performance of library service contract, year 9. This item is on pages 13 to 30 of the agenda pack and provides an update of the contract performance information to enable the committee to fulfil its role in scrutinising performance of the 9th year of the outsourced library contract to Greenwich Leisure Limited, also known as GLL. Actions required. The actions required by the committee are to 1. Review and comment on the performance information included in the report. 2. Consider and can support the ongoing development and proposed Year 11 developments highlighted in the report. And 3. Highlight any additional priorities for consideration. The report will be presented by Louise Egan, Library and Heritage Client Lead, Nicole Hilton, Assistant Director, Communities, and Will Mason, Head of Culture. Welcome to Nicole, and welcome to Nicole Rogers, Partnership Manager, GLL, who is also in attendance today. Welcome. Over to you, Louise, Nicole, and Will, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I've provided some additional details within the report and also in Appendix A in terms of the library service and the contract model that we operate across Lincolnshire, just for your background information, because this is the first time that obviously I've presented libraries to our new Scrutiny committee. But today I wanted to focus on the success of the library service and the past year, and in particular pick out some of those key highlights and performance areas from the last year for you. So to begin with, we saw a 7% increase in visits, so that's to our core sites and our mobile service, which equates to just over 1 million visits, so 1 million individuals across all of our sites. And we also saw a 3% increase on issues, so this equates to 2.3 million issues. Again, that's across our physical sites, but also against our digital platform as well. And what we tend to experience is around a 70% physical issues and 30% digital issues across the service. And this is something we are particularly proud of because that digital interaction with our customers is growing, and it's something that transpired as a result of the COVID pandemic and being able to interact with our customers when they weren't able to physically get in and to see us. And it is a trend that's continued for many, so it is an area of investment of extending the digital books and services and material that we've got across the service. In terms of that digital engagement within sites, this continues to grow as well, as can be seen in Appendix B. So this is especially highlighting the fact that we had over 173 hours of Wi-Fi use. And this is particularly important because the majority of those sessions connected to the Wi-Fi are for students or for those businesses that have started to operate from our sites rather than using cafes and other buildings available to them. So again, it's just trying to demonstrate and emphasise the growth in our audience across the service. It's not just the traditional users that are operating from our buildings. And obviously they're benefiting from that welcoming and safe environment that we offer to all. Now, Appendix B also illustrates and highlights that every KPI for the year was achieved, with many exceeding by some margin. And this is a reflection of the dedication of the team, their passion for engaging, supporting all of our communities of all ages. And Appendix C shows some of that snapshot of the gratitude from our customers. So some of those highlights throughout the years, just to demonstrate where people have really engaged with the service and that how they value it as an asset and a valuable amenity to our communities. In terms of the activities that we ran last year, the site hosted a variety for all ages. So we have jigsaw clubs, we have Lego coding, we do a lot with adult learning and partnerships within LCC, and that generated 83,000 individuals interacting with those activities throughout the year. There's no surprise that the Summer Reading Challenge from last year was one of the highlights. We continue to grow the offer. We continue to have additional activity for our children throughout the summer period, because for that 6 weeks, it's about ensuring and reinforcing that those positive behaviours from schools and from primary schools continue whilst there is a gap with that formal education. So it's about encouraging people coming in and the benefits of reading and that social interaction with others. Another particular highlight of the year was our World Book Day events, and leading up to the World Book Day we had a 4-week period wherein we had the costume swap. So this was where we had a rail at Lincoln Central Library where people could come in, bring their old Spider-Man outfits that no longer fitted the children, and they could swap it for an item that did actually then fit them. So just to help with a bit more with sustainability, but also to help reach across some of our communities that haven't got the means necessarily to go out to be able to be spending that money just for an outfit for one day. And alongside that, the team ran quite a lot of sessions for people to be able to design and make their own costumes as well. And we had emergency packs so that if people couldn't attend an actual session, they could get the material to be able to make those costumes at home so that the children didn't miss out on it. Just another area that I quickly want to touch on, Chair, if I may, is just the continued use and gratitude for the community hubs. They are well used, often described as vital assets across all of our communities and residents, and they provide those services for those using them, but it's also about the opportunities for the individuals volunteering in the site. So last year we had over 52,000 hours of volunteer hours dedicated across our network of community hubs. And obviously that's about the well-being and the social aspects that it brings for those individuals, as well as having those assets for the users themselves. So in terms of next steps, so for this current year, 25-26, it is the final year of the current contract. So the service will be continuing to expand upon those activities, continue with that engagement with our communities, with our children, and to be able to focus on just being able to enhance what's available moving forwards in this final year of a really successful, positive partnership that we've had with GLL. Thank you, Chair.
Whoever would like to go next, please.
I think there's not much further to say. What we'd really like to see, Chair, is just any questions. Happy to expand on any of the things that Louise has just talked about.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. Thank you. So have we got any questions there we'd like to ask, please, Councillor Grantham? Okay.
Councillor Smith.
Jane?
Yeah, Councillor Smith.
Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Clark and myself are the only county councillors here from 2014 when the council had the battle over libraries. It was a stressful year because out of the 30 with 45 libraries to be run by volunteers, it was a big ask. And then the remaining 15 to be outsourced to Greenwich. And also we had to save the Lincolnshire libraries, which won a legal battle, of course, against LCC at the time. So I'm pleased after a very turbulent beginning that this report seems to be so positive and everything seems to be running so well for the past 9 years. You say that the provision provided by Greenwich has been the usage of the library service position changed over the course of the 9 years. So for the next contracted years, how are you planning to move on to grow? And are you planning on taking on any more volunteer libraries and also Grantham's library? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you are quite correct in terms of the history and the turbulent time that the library service has had. But yeah, we are very, very proud in terms of how we've been able to overcome that and in terms of the positive support that we receive now from our communities in using those sites. In terms of Grantham, it is something that we are still progressing with, because obviously we did have a lease issue at that site that prevented the staff being able to TUPE over to Greenwich Leisure Limited. But we are quite close in terms of being able to finally resolve that issue. It has been a landlord and lease situation, but we have continued throughout the last 9 years to be able to rectify it. And in terms of the next contract, we're not actually at a position as of yet to be able to announce formally within this committee the outcome of that procurement exercise, but we are in the very end stages of that, so we should be able to announce something quite soon. But again, for us, it's about ensuring that stability and continuing that service provision to ensure that it's about growing on what's already available. And particularly for me, I thought the importance for the new contract was around looking at where we can align better within LCC internally. Particularly obviously with children's services, with adult social care, with public health. So I think there's going to be a lot more linkages up with other services and other departments, because communities do see libraries as a hub for them. And I think what our ambition is to make sure that they can be a true hub for those individuals, and to try and reduce maybe some of the handoffs of needing to go to other individuals if they can receive some of that support in site when they're already there. And that's something that I'm really, really keen on. And as well, I think particularly there are certain services that we provide as a county council where there's stigma attached to it of, I don't want to walk through that door, I don't want to be seen as accessing that service. So for me, it's about, are there other linkages that we can make? Individuals can walk into a library. It's, you know, it's a universal, it's a safe space, and then access the further information that's required of them.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you both. Sorry? Okay. Okay. Will, thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, I did want to just add something. I actually wanted to add my thanks to Louise and to GLL and to all of the volunteers across the county. It was a very challenging time. It was seen as a negative at the time, but I'm incredibly proud of all of the work that's been done that has taken what was seen as a negative, and it's now become an example of national best practice. Our library hubs are literally services beyond just the normal ones one might expect in a library. They're delivered by the local community for the local community, and it's a model that has been copied many times across the country now as well. So what's come out of it just could not be any stronger. It's an absolutely brilliant model.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Corey, please.
Thank you. I wish you'd come to me first, because he's just nicked my line. And also, you know, quite ironically, that this is a paper on libraries. I've forgotten my reading glasses, so I've written something down, and I actually can't read it, so apologies. But I did want to say thank you to everyone who works in that portfolio area and GLL. The councillor there, sorry, I can't see your name, was absolutely right. It was a difficult birth for the service, but I think from the statistics that Louise has read out and the reports that we've had over the past 4 years and 7 years that I've been associated with the portfolio, it's just bucked national trends, and that was one of my questions. I'm hoping, do you have any figures, or can you give us any anecdotal evidence of how Lincolnshire is still bucking the national trend? Because I know certainly it did after COVID, when library physical use and digital use went down. Lincolnshire continued year on year to improve and increase. So have you got any figures on that you can give to the new members, please?
Thank you, Councillor Corey. I can't give specific figures. What I can say is we are still travelling on that same line in terms of post-COVID. What was seen across the country was issues returning to about normal, but the proportion between physical digital changing slightly, but visits mirroring your high street footfall as people slightly changed their habits and did some more things digital than they used to do physical, and being around the 90% as was pre-COVID. I can say we are more than 100% above what we were issuing in 2019. Our visits, we are very close now to having visits of approximately the same as they were pre-COVID, which actually, again, is a positive when nationally the picture was round about the 90% level. So we are continuing on that course. What you are seeing, particularly from the issues side of things, is our digital offer has attracted a new audience to the library service. And also we're seeing then a lot more of our users being hybrid. People may prefer to borrow a physical book, but actually when it comes to talking books or magazines, they prefer to use our digital platforms. So it's an evolving picture, but we are there on or above trend, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. What you described, would you say that fits into the Bootham hub? Because yesterday I stood outside there whilst it was closed and I asked 9 people of the community, what do you think that building is over there? They said, well, it's a church now, because the sign states Breakthrough Church, and in real small letters it says library. So I'm just wondering if the same services are given to that hub. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. They are indeed. I think with the hubs, the way that we've operated and created the model is that they have got independence in terms of the additional services that they do provide. And equally, we've got a service level agreement with each individual organisation who has established a community hub. So they have got specific criteria in terms of the amount of opening hours that they need to be open for and delivering services. So in particular with Bootham, it's probably one that isn't as open as regularly and often as some of our other sites. But in terms of what's available for our communities, it's definitely the same. What we can do and what I will do is speak to Darren, who's in charge of the hub, and just reiterate some of the kind of the identity of that building and site, because it is important that the hubs are independent, they're seen as a hub, and those additional services that we'd mentioned earlier, but we definitely don't want to lose sight of the fact that they are libraries. We have got statistics that show the interactions at the site, so it's not something that we're concerned with of not being used from a library perspective, but I can have a conversation with you outside of the meeting if that's useful.
Thank you. I'd just like to I'll come on with the other questions. I'd just like to put something in there myself. I'm using the Breakthrough Centre on Larchwood Crescent, the hub there, and I think it's brilliant, but there is a lot of room for more to go on there. It's a lot of space, and yes, he's a lovely man, Darren, but maybe just a little bit laid back. He's a lovely man, though. Thank you. So we're on to Councillor Cleaver, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased that we have 36 community hubs. Some of them are familiar. But it concerns me slightly that there are no KPIs and there's no differentiation in size. They all get, it's a one-size-fits-all in terms of the funding, which seems slightly perverse in a way. I mean, that's over £700,000 worth of funding. And with that sort of amount of money, one would expect some scrutiny of who's performing well, who isn't performing well, who needs more money, who doesn't perhaps need so much. So could you expand on that for me, please?
Yes, of course I can, Councillor. With the community hubs, it was established as the model as part of a wider service reorganisation that obviously landed us in court, as previously mentioned. However, with the service level agreements that we've got in place with each of these organisations, because of the contract vehicle, we are prohibited from putting specific KPIs within there, because otherwise it would make it a contract that we had with those organisations. And at the time that was seen as something that potentially would put people off wanting to establish one of our community hubs. So that's the reason that the agreements at the time didn't have the KPIs included. What I will say is we do have 4 fantastic library development officers within GLL, and their sole job is to support those community hubs. So that's in terms of if they've got any operational issues, in terms of getting the delivery in the stock, how they engage with other individuals. And what they do is they do monitor the performance of all of the sites. And the other benefit that we have of 4 of them is that they split up the county so that they then come back together and they share that best practice. Some of the other sites that might be struggling, that might not be benefiting from the same numbers and the same individuals that are walking through. So in terms of monitoring, it definitely does happen. And at least on an annual basis, we do have a formal discussion with them to see how those hubs are performing and if there's any additional support that they need. I speak on a daily basis to at least one of the hubs, and I act for those that are in the LCC buildings as a conduit between them and between property services as well, if there's anything additional to the buildings that require maintenance and upkeep, for example. So we definitely do it. It is just light touch because of the vehicle that we use. Having said that, we are obviously approaching a new contract period from April 2026, and there are changes to that service level agreement. Only slight tweaks, because we still want to get the benefits that we are currently receiving from those sites. But just in terms of best practice and a little bit of lessons learned over the last 9 years, where we could just add a little bit more to those agreements just to, you know, strengthen the arguments and the points that you've made.
Well,
thank you. If I could just add as well that we have to remember these are volunteer run. So in terms of the expectations we can make of them, we have to be very mindful of that. As Louise says, please don't think the lack of KPIs doesn't mean a lack of monitoring and support of the performance. Also, actually, it's one of the strengths is the flexibility that they have as hubs, because what we provide through the support through GLL and through Lincolnshire County Council is the universal element of the service, but by being so independent, that's where they get to be able to respond to what their local communities want and need. And there are other aspects as well where we do look at how there might not be exactly one model fits all. So, for instance, in 2020, we rolled out a significant IT refresh, but as part of that, we didn't do a blanket, you are a hub, you get 2 computers. It was very much about working in partnership with the hubs to go, what is the need? What is the need of your users? But as Louise touched on as well, what is the need of the volunteers? So there were a couple of hubs who said, could we have one more PC on reception? And we were like, well, we didn't think that your issues warranted it. And they went, you're absolutely right. But if we have 2, we've got 2 volunteers. That's 2 people we're supporting, 2 people developing life skills, 2 people getting the confidence to go back into the workplace. So there is a really strong balance, which I think is the best thing about the library service, is that balance of the universal element that any member of our community can go into one library here or another library there and get the same quality, but that localism is run through the heart of it as well. Thank you.
thank you, Will. Thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. Louise, brilliant report. Thank you so much for a positive report for a change. This is great. Given the 25 million social value attributed to the library service, could you elaborate on how the figures are externally validated, benchmarked against other authorities for you know what I mean, and credibility? So I'm just asking about the robustness, not about the value. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. I will pass this one over to Nicola, if I may.
So the social value figures, this is a social value calculator that's been developed through Greenwich Leisure Limited. It initially started on our leisure side and working with Experian, Sheffield Hallam University, and somebody else who I've forgotten, apologies. And this was looking at the data that goes in, and then the output is the social value figure. What they then did was look at how could we work that out within libraries. And so what this is based on issues and hours of computer use within those postcodes. It then goes into the algorithm that is then looking at each of those communities and the postcodes that attaches the weight to it. So it is something, it's not just something we've, you know, made up. It is through, as I said, Sheffield Hallam University, Experian, and it is a national measure that's being used across the whole of GLL. There are a number of different social value frameworks out there. So, for example, local government, I know, tends to use the TOMS method. So it's I would say the main difference with the model that we use within GLL is it very much focuses on the outputs, not just, are you with me, the inputs. Is that okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Corey, please.
Thank you. He's done it again. So this is getting annoying now. Will. Could you tell us, I think it's probably Louise who will mic and jump in and steal your thunder, Louise, get in there first. The outcome of, and I've forgotten her name, the Baroness's visit. She did that national review of libraries. She came to Lincolnshire and she said it was a national review, and her favourite library in the whole of the country was Bracebridge. I got really excited because I actually thought it was Bracebridge Heath, but it's not. It's Bracebridge, but good on Bracebridge for nicking the top slot. Going back to the birth of the new service, one of the main protagonists of the wanting to review this more deeply was our friend Councillor Dilks, and by his own admission, the library in his division, Deepings, has been transformed. So really, what we can only describe as the democratization of the library service. And this is a bottom-up, this is a community-driven, community hub library service. As Louise was saying, not every community needs the same thing. So by giving them the control, they know what their needs are, and they can provide the solutions with support from GLL. And that's what the National Review saw from Lincolnshire, and that's what makes us unique, and that's what makes us so successful. And the money that we're putting into the library service, and I know I'm making a statement, not asking a question, although there is a question embedded in there, but this is a service I'm deeply believe in and deeply passionate about. That yes, there's a cost line to it, but actually it's an investment, because the social value that people get means that they're not then relying on services across the rest of the county council or the NHS. So the social value of this is huge, and yes, it's robust. So could you tell us about the review, please, Louise, or Will?
Thank you, Councillor. You are correct. It was a review that was undertaken, and Baroness did produce that report, so it was published and it is available on the government website. And you are again quite correct in the fact that she highlighted one of Lincolnshire's hubs as her favourite of all of the sites that she did visit. So again, it's something that we were particularly proud of. But again, I will just pass over to Nicola because I think she's got a few more comments on the report itself.
So yes, so it was Baroness Sanderson. So yes, she was charged with essentially reviewing public libraries across the across England mainly. This was as a sort of next step on from one of the Arts Council reviews of libraries, and so she was charged with going and looking at, you might say, the state of libraries and putting forward to government some recommendations for the development of libraries in the future. So yes, as Liz Louise says, that was published. There were about, I think, 5 or 6 different strands. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but as I said, it is available nationally. But as a result of her recommendations, a number of things have happened in the past year or so. One of the things has been around moving. There's a national advocacy week for libraries called National Library Week. That has been moved to a different time of the year to ensure that it's happening when Parliament was sitting. It used to be when Parliament wasn't, so that there could be more debate and more opportunity for MPs to be involved and know what was going on in their local library service. One of the other things that the report highlighted was how people's awareness and perceptions of libraries was something that obviously impacted usage, and particularly looking at non-users and their perceptions and understanding why people might not use a library service. So as a result of that, government gave the Department for Culture, Media and Sport some funding to do specific research into that. So it was Ipsos, who I'm sure you'll have heard of, do a lot of the surveying. They did some initial research last year identifying barriers to library use, and they actually are just about to publish the follow-up, because as a result of that, DCMS were awarded more funding to just dig that little bit deeper about that. And I'm actually going to a webinar at some point next month when they'll be announcing the outcomes of that second part of research, all of which is, and I'll be honest, there were, from me having worked in public libraries for 30 odd years, there were certain things that weren't a surprise. It is to do about perceptions, the old myths of libraries being quiet, studious places, about people's awareness of the fact that we have online services, that we're not these quiet, shushing places. But they were then going to dig slightly more into this in the next section of the report as to how can we get the message out that libraries aren't what people might have thought they were 30, 40 years ago. So that is sort of the next stage from that. Is that okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Cleaver, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to come back and ask about the one-size-fits-all funding. Is that then under review in terms of the new contract and how that will be let?
Thank you. Yeah, the intent is to just, it's proven such a success, is to just continue rolling it out as it is and make no changes.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Parkinson, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to echo the sentiments by Councillor Corey. I think it's fantastic when we hear that Lincolnshire can be a leader in service delivery. It's something that we should all be really proud of. It shows the hard work, the perseverance for a lot of these service areas are really worth it. It's amazing to see the growth year on year, and we hope that it can continue. So you should all be really proud of all the hard work that you do, and it is greatly appreciated. My question, I think, was partially covered by my colleague here, but of course the library in my hometown of Grantham, I would just like to ask, is there anything further that we can divulge on the latest on that, if that's at all possible, please?
Probably not within this forum, but I'm quite happy to have a conversation outside and update you on where we are with it. That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. Nice lot of questions there. Thank you, everybody. Anybody else want to have any say here? Thank you. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to pass on my thanks to Nicola and GLL and Louise and all of the officers involved in this incredible piece of work, and how we, are doing so well within the service in terms of moving that forward. I just want to reiterate the words of Louise as well in terms of having children's and culture together and the opportunities that will potentially bring. So just to say, really excited about the future and what we can do in order to progress even further with an already successful service. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to just ask one question as well. I was interested to see that the Wi-Fi usage has gone up a lot. Do you charge for that?
We don't know. It's a free service across all of our sites.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes that section. I propose that the committee is satisfied with the performance information in the report and supports the ongoing development and proposed Year 10 developments highlighted in the report, and that our comments and views in relation to the priorities for Year 10 are to be shared with relevant officers and GLL partners for consideration. Can you please raise your hand if you agree? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, item 6, Lincolnshire Youth Justice Plan 2025-28. This item is on pages 31 to 150 of the agenda pack and is for pre-decision scrutiny prior to a decision by the Executive on the 2nd of September 25. As the Youth Justice Plan is part of the Council's policy framework, it will subsequently require formal approval by the County Council on the 12th of September 25. So the actions required are: 1. Consider the attached report and to determine whether the committee supports the recommendations to the executive as set out in the report. And 2. Agree any additional comments to be passed on to the executive in relation to this item. The report will be presented by Andy Cook, Head of Services, Families First for Children, Pathfinders, and Amy Lawson, Team Manager, Youth Offending. Over to you, Andy. Thank you. And then Amy. Thank you.
Thanks very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to present the report today. I'm actually in my Pathfinder role, but stepping back into familiar territory today in terms of this Youth Justice Plan, and Amy's also here today as well as working within the service. So I guess what we wanted to do today was obviously reflect the sort of duties that we have in respect to the plan and how the plan has come about and why the necessity for the plan really. And I think obviously one of the things that I was going to address right at the very outset is that this is not a short plan. I think there's a really clear acknowledgement of that, and that's something that we've raised perhaps last year at Council as well. And there's a couple of reasons for that, and I think they're worth understanding really, is that there are some key stipulations about what the plan should contain, and they're sort of prescribed by the Youth Justice Board in relation to how the plan should look and be configured. And obviously, that's really important because obviously we get a grant from the Youth Justice Board, quite a significant grant. So for those that aren't aware, that the sort of formulation of funding for Future for Me and the Youth Justice Services is a multi-agency funding arrangement. So some of that comes from the Youth Justice Board, some of that obviously comes from the County Council, and some of that comes from the Police and Crime Commissioner. And we also get resources from the police and other agencies such as probation as well. So it's just really understanding that this is a sort of a collaboration in terms of the partnership. I think the other reason in terms of the length of the plan is a really positive reason, is that there's a huge amount of ambition set out within the plan about where the service has been and where it's going to. And I think the model of and the way of working that we've got in Lincolnshire, which has been established through Future for Me, is absolutely at the forefront of how services are working with vulnerable adolescents now as well. And lots of other areas have sought to sort of copy and follow that way of working and recognise that it's a much more holistic way of working than perhaps existed with the conventional youth offending services that have been in existence for some time. So I think within that, as I said, the content of the plan is obviously reflecting the strength of our multi-agency and partnership working, and that is a massive strength in Lincolnshire, which I really wanted to emphasise, and I think we couldn't do the work that we do without collaboration with colleagues in Lincolnshire Police, colleagues in health, probation, education, and so on and so forth. So it is really a collective effort that contributes towards this. Obviously, what we've also noted, and hopefully councillors will be aware of, is that the service was judged to be outstanding at its last inspection in 2023. That's really important. We want to obviously build on that, retain that as well, but we acknowledge in the way that the passage of time, there's inspection will be looming again in some time. There's a new inspection framework, so we've got to be ready for that eventuality as well. So that's all contained within that. But as I said, it is a really comprehensive plan, but it also reflects the wide-ranging support provided by Future for Me to those children in Lincolnshire. And just to give you a flavour of what some of those services look like, that encapsulates within Future for Me, that encapsulates our early help offer. It encapsulates, obviously, the youth justice work, which the Youth Justice Plan reflects upon. Positive futures, youth and community development, our health model of integrated complex care as well, and our work around missing and exploitation, and our joint diversionary panel in terms of diverting children and young people wherever possible away from the formal criminal justice system. So what I'd say about that is we do an awful lot within Lincolnshire in terms of that offer. So I guess when you're looking at the plan and you're looking at the depth and breadth and comprehensiveness of the plan, it's reflecting all of that. And I think what we've got to look at really, I suppose, in relation to why we undertake the plan, it's obviously a statutory duty as part of the Crime and Disorder Act. The local authority has a duty to formulate a youth justice service, which is what we obviously have. We've got key legislative demands in relation to that, and obviously they also underpin the partnership funding arrangements and resources that obviously follow that as well. And I think also, just I guess for oversight and scrutiny purposes, there's a number of different forums in which the performance of the service is scrutinised, and this obviously being one of them. But also that's covered off by it having its own strategic management board, which obviously Councillor Locke is now a member of, which is really positive. But it's also a collective of other strategic partners sitting at that board who meet every quarter to scrutinise the work of the board. Obviously, through the Children's Safeguarding Partnership, the work of the service is also scrutinised as well, and through the Youth Justice Board, who's the oversight body for the work that they do. So really, what the plan is essentially about, and being able to reflect to you, is it's obviously giving an overview of the demographics of the cohort of children that we are currently working with. It provides a retrospective look back about some of the work and achievements that's been done in the last 12 months to be able to reflect upon that. It's an analysis of the annual data, so there's lots of data obviously that you'll see within the content of the report, which is about us looking at and considering in relation to any changing themes or priorities that might emerge over time. It sets out the financial framework and obviously the resources and structure of the service also, which is a key stipulation, and measuring those outcomes and the impact of the actions from the previous year. And I guess a really important role in relation to what the board fulfills, but also the plan, is that it's highlighting any sort of forthcoming risks or challenges that might be emerging, whether they might be sort of operational challenges in relation to offending or so forth, or whether they might be about resources, funding, or whatever. But the whole breadth of risks and challenges are sort of encapsulated and would be overseen by the board as well. And I guess finally, it would also be about identifying the priorities, so the plan is really clear in terms of setting out the key priorities for the board. So I think there's some key things that really underpin the plan. It's about the service operating in a way that's evidence-based, and working, in a really innovative way. And I think we've really opened up new ways of working in Lincolnshire. And as I said, I feel we're at the absolute sort of forefront of that work. And obviously the HMIP inspection sort of validated a lot of that as well. I think working in a real child-first way, so recognising that we do work with children, we've got to recognise that they are children, the opportunities that we have in working with children, the opportunities to divert them away from the criminal justice system. The duty that we have to work with victims of crime as well, because again, that's enshrined in law. So we've clearly got a duty to work to support victims of crime. How we ensure we've got a workforce that's skilled, confident and competent in terms of being able to do the really challenging work that it undertakes. So that's really key. And lots of development in the work that we do with key partnerships, I suppose, as well, in terms of how we take work forward, how we assess our priorities and how they come to be formed. So lots of development work's gone on in the previous year to think about what are the key priorities for the service and how do we address them. So I think what I was going to say is that obviously, I'm not intended to take you through the plan line by line. I think that would be a challenge. But just in terms of some highlights, I suppose, is that if you look at the vision and strategy of the plan, it is hopefully emphasising that child-first approach and that way of working. It is working in a trauma-informed way and recognising that many of the children and young people we work with are incredibly vulnerable, and we have to work in a trauma-informed way, and having the skills and resources in the workforce to be able to do that. Having a really strong focus on prevention and diversion and working with children at the very earliest opportunity. So that, again, is critical to the work we do. Obviously, recognising that we do want to build on that outstanding inspection outcome by HMIP, and also the work of the service was also assessed by Ofsted as well, particularly that work around missing and exploitation as well, because that's obviously a critical focus of theirs. And as I said, the governance and partnerships is really strong, and as I said, that strategic management board's a really key element in ensuring there's really strong governance, oversight and scrutiny of the work that's being done, and that being done on a really on a quarterly basis, and to those other forums that are described as well. There's some performance highlights identified in the report, which obviously reflects some of the key themes around first-time entrance into the service, the rate of reoffending, and custody rates for children. All of those are really positive in the sense of comparators against other areas, and lots of work's been done in terms of reflecting that. And again, looking at work that we can do in terms of inclusion and ensuring that the children that we work with are in education wherever possible, or training or employment, because we clearly know that's a risk factor when they're not in those spaces. So Key priorities for the forthcoming year, because this is a 3-year plan that's been outlined, so education, training, employment and access to that for children. Work around victims and restorative justice, and our support to victims is also identified as a priority. Work around violence and exploitation as well, recognising that that's a key element that we need to maintain, and some of the risks that children face outside the home is really important in relation to that, and obviously those children who go missing. Work around transitions and care leavers is also encapsulated by that, and obviously an ongoing commitment around workforce development and quality assurance to ensure that the quality of practice is really, really strong as well. Some of the innovative projects that we've talked about in terms of Positive Futures Plus, using sports and mentoring to build confidence for children and young people, and the Complex Needs Service, which is providing speech and language therapists, psychology, both clinical and forensic psychology, and harmful sexual behaviours to ensure we've got really highly skilled specialist workers who can also support our wider staff group in some of the challenges they face in working with children and young people. And again, obviously just reflecting the structure of the service the plan does, and how that governance and accountability framework works in terms of how we go forward. So as I said, more than happy to take any questions in relation to that, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Did Amy want to say anything at this point? Okay, thank you very much. I'll open it up for questions then. So I have Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for such a big report. There's a lot in here. On page 23, which is page 61 of ours, it states that the length of time children spend on bail for sexual offences is a concern, but you don't give a time frame, and you say that you're going to be working with the police to understand the barriers and how we can work to bring this down, but there's no time frame given there. And also, how well is the tracking service on children who are on bail for serious offences? Is it an effective service working with the police? Thank you.
I'll start in relation to I guess some of the reasons that inform that is that the nature of those investigations can be quite complex and lengthy, and that does therefore influence the timescales, and obviously we wouldn't want those to go on for an inordinate period of time. But I think Amy's been at the sort of forefront of doing work with police colleagues in terms of some of the measures I guess that we could take to try and address that. So yeah.
So there's recently been a remand concordat, a national concordat that's been produced that all agencies are signed up for, and we're using that as a framework where we've got a bail and remand task and finish group currently. What started off around looking at children being bailed away from home, because we saw from the data that they would be bailed away from home but they would return, that how we work collaboratively with the police around that. That's now linked into this incident tracking system. So we record all children who are arrested for serious offences. And so we can analyse that data. It's been a new requirement from the Youth Justice Board within the last few years, so it's taken a little bit of time for us to identify that that's an issue. But very much that we are now cited on that, we've discussed it at our management board, and that's where the oversight is sat currently. In terms of timeframes, we are back at the board with the remand update in September. And from that, we'll be able to look at what the barriers are around this delay, because we are able, therefore, to take it forward, to take some steps around it, because it's not necessarily within our influence as a Youth Justice Service, because it's before these children get to us. So it's working collaboratively with the police and the Crown Prosecution Service to identify what steps we can do to influence that shortening, to understand where that comes from.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I've got some questions that are connected to it. Sorry about that. There's 4 of them. Do you want them all at once?
Can we just have one at a time, please, if you wouldn't mind, because it gets a bit confusing, but that's fine for 4 questions, one at a time, to be answered one at a time.
Right.
Thank you.
First-time offenders. What is the average age of the offender, and what is the type of offence?
That is information that we do hold, but in terms of the specifics, I wouldn't be able to give it to you now, but happy to update you outside of the meeting. This is where we're bringing them into the youth justice system where they can't be diverted. So yeah, that's very robustly tracked, but I haven't got it in front of me.
I think just for clarity, Councillor Clark, so I think the predominant element of our cohort that we'd see is probably between the ages of 14 and 15, and that would be the. But there are obviously earlier interactions within the criminal justice at a younger age, but the whole process of diversion is really critical to that, because first-time entrance is where you are an entrant in the formalised criminal justice system, as opposed to where you might have appeared earlier in the system that hasn't. So everything that we would try to do wherever possible, if that makes sense, is about avoiding children becoming formalised in the criminal justice system, because there's consequences and impact for that. I think in the formalised system, probably 14 is that age range, but people will appear earlier, and hopefully effective diversion is a good sort of antidote to ensuring that we don't see them again at a sort of a later stage.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, do you like to ask a second question? Then we'll come back for the others in a minute, please.
How many offenders attend free or independent schools?
Again, in terms of the specific numbers, I haven't got that with me, but we would be able to find that information for you.
Can I just come in, Chair? Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, thank you. So, Councillor Clark, did you say free schools? Yeah, so the free schools that we have in Lincolnshire are basically schools that the council has supported for growth. So a lot of our free schools are just schools where in the previous world we would have just built a new school, but we can't build new schools yet. So I'm not, in terms of them being free schools, that you get free primary, free secondary, free alternative provision. So they're not a type of school where you'd see a cohort of children. And in terms of independent schools, are you meaning private schools by that? Yeah, okay. So we can have a look at that. But the free schools aren't the same as the independent schools, so they're more like the rest of your state schools.
Thank you, Heather, thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. The plan outlines strong partnership work around contextual safeguarding, and it's encouraging to see the progress. As this is a national developing area, I'm interested to know how we build on that, particularly in terms of how the impact is being evaluated. Could I ask how we're measuring outcomes, especially around early intervention and multi-agency learning from serious incidences? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think a lot of that work is about our collaboration with the Children's Safeguarding Partnership, because the oversight and understanding of exploitation and missing sits within that work. We've got, and I think we're really privileged to have, a dedicated child exploitation analyst that's employed by the Children's Safeguarding Partnership. So the data that we're able to capture in relation to that hopefully gives us a really good understanding of what missing and exploitation, the picture of missing and exploitation looks like, contextual. And I think it's also in relation to developing best practice. It's working with colleagues such like Children's Society and others, Bernardo's and others who are at the forefront of that work, and recognising sort of expertise in respect to that. We've obviously got our MACE panels, which meet on a weekly basis, which are multi-agency panels tackling exploitation. The police are really critical to that work, particularly in relation to enforcement and disruption of exploitation. So I think trying to move away from looking at individual children necessarily, which we would clearly safeguard and want to do that anyway, but looking at perpetrators and understanding where perpetrators are. I think that whole premise is about creating safe spaces in the communities where children do feel safe and they're able to go to. And also we've got a dedicated intelligence routine where people can report concerns around a location, for example, where there might be a concern around exploitation, and that can therefore be fed in to address that work. But I think a lot of what we're trying to drive at, and I think that's the same story in other areas, is how can you disrupt this so that it's not just about one child, it's about addressing the overarching impact of perpetrators, really, if that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just start off with proof that I've read the document. Page 54, first sentence, Lincolnshire Council has the L missing off. So now I can speak about the rest because I've read it. I remember the HMPI inspection. I was involved in that. I was a little bit nervous the day before. Arrived here in plenty of time. Sat outside what I thought was the right room in the part of the building that I hadn't been to, and then arrived 2 or 3 minutes late because I was in the wrong place. Didn't help. I was nervous because it was important that we were seen to do a good job, because that means that we were supporting our people in a very good way. It's also important because it brings forward other opportunities for the county, things like the Pathfinder. That gives us the opportunity to influence not only the government but other councils, organisations that work in the same way as we do. It's always good where something you're doing helps other people improve. And we do that across all the children's services. And I think the strength of the organisation is actually the diversity of the members and the organisations that are on it, backed up by the passion and commitment of all those people. This plan highlights, in my opinion, the ethos on the commitment of this partnership. HMIP, outstanding, great. Almost the same breath, we then go on to say, okay, how do we improve it? And I think that sums us up here. We do extremely well in lots of areas, but that's not good enough. We want to improve. We want to look after our young people better. So yet another Lincolnshire success story over the past year, which is fantastic. And I think there's another one coming. I would like the opportunity just to thank the partnership for allowing me to be involved over the last year. And if there's going to be a question, then it's, can we carry on, please? Thank you very much, Chair.
Any answer to that? But yes, please. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Okay, Councillor Parkinson, please.
Thank you, Chair. It talks about in here in terms of the way that the first-time offences have changed this year. So, for example, we're talking about how possession of weapons and theft has increased. So, does that typically follow a national trend, or is there any specific issues that we have in Lincolnshire that are different to what we'd see nationally?
I think some of the data, obviously, I think you have to put in context in terms of this is a small cohort of relatively small cohort of children. The reason there's such a focus on them is because they're incredibly vulnerable. There's resources that clearly go into working with them. So I think when we see, say, for example, shifts in relation to custody numbers or reoffending numbers, you're talking sometimes about very small numbers of people. I think there are some key sort of themes and trends that exist nationally. There's also tracking data of serious violence, for example, at that very highest threshold of serious violence. I think the data that we've got would support the fact that we're not in that space. But I think it's about not being complacent to that as well, because, as I said, the impact of those offences is enormous on victims, communities, and the impact for young people when convicted as well. So I do feel as though there are some key offences and some of those offence types, Councillor Parker said, have sort of evolved over time as well. Probably don't see as much issues, I suppose, in terms of burglary or car theft anymore, but some of the other offences such as, say for example, about assault, and when we talk about assault, we're talking about perhaps a lower level, not minimising it, but a lower sort of threshold, but also within their peer group, because I think what we also know about this cohort, they are both sort of within the justice system for things that are perpetrated, but they're also the most likely to be victimised as well within that group as well. So you have to look at it in that sort of joint context. But I think the Youth Justice Board are very good, and we work obviously collaboratively with the Youth Justice Board, and we've also brought in the Lincoln University as well in terms of assessing and analysing. So all the data in relation to the offences that, for example, come to the Joint Diversionary Panel, we can track and monitor, and we can pick out any sort of key themes that are emerging. I don't know if you, Amy.
I was just going to mention in terms of the weapons, there's been a change in legislation around knife crime, which has meant a different outcome for children that would have maybe previously been diverted, that are now being sent to court, which then obviously has a flux on the data, even though the issues are static, if that makes sense. So just for a bit of context.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We will now go to Councillor Hume, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to ask a little bit about the use
Councillor Hume, can you speak into your microphone because I'm
sorry.
struggling? Thank you very much.
Just a little question about the rehabilitation process, and you said involving children in that, and the child first process. Can you tell me a little bit about how we use technologies in that process, but also how we encourage them to develop life skills outside of the use of technologies, because I think it's well known now how excess use of technologies can actually bring on certain behavioral characteristics which may or may not lead to criminal behaviors.
We do use technology in terms of engaging the children that we work with. However, it's not our sole focus. I think we're in a highly privileged position that we have positive futures and youth and community development within our team. I'm not sure if anybody saw the social media posts about street games at the weekend, and we're able to bring our children into things like that because what we want to do is raise aspirations for these children and show them a different path, and to do that, to give them some opportunities and things to work towards, to give them a sense of pride in themselves, give them a positive activity, find the reasons for the behaviours that are negative that we're seeing and try and find a positive outlet and divert them that way. Is that okay?
Thank you. Did you want to follow on with that?
One further thing, which is a follow-on from that, sorry. In terms of barriers to access, one of the key things we know about young offenders is that, and I don't know how else to say this, but the appearance of being cool. How do you sort of allow for that particular barrier?
I think we're really fortunate that we've got a very skilled workforce, and we put a lot of effort into the development of our workforce. They are it's a constant challenge to stay ahead of the game and to understand the language that children are using, to be able to engage with them in a meaningful way. So I think we're very sensitive to that and working towards the needs of that child. We also recognise that a lot of the children that we work with have potentially not had a very positive experience of adults in their past, and they're coming from a place of mistrust, and they try and push us away, so we can't leave them. And so we kind of we accept that, and we accept the child that's in front of us and continue to work with them regardless of how much they try and push us away. We're consistent, we're persistent, and feel very fortunate to have frontline workforce who are highly skilled in being able to do that.
I think just to add to that, Councillor Hume, because Amy mentioned positive futures and youth and community development, and I think what's really key to that is the offer to children and young people, and it comes from a strength-based approach, i.e. not what are your problems, but what do you love doing, what do you enjoy? Is it dance? Is it sport? Is it physical? You know, whatever that might be, arts or whatever. So I think it's about that approach, and I think that's why it has such a great uptake in relation to both, you know, at a targeted and a universal level as well. So I think again, it's just a real strength, I guess, of the whole offer that we've got within the service, I guess.
It sounds fantastic, and I think you're doing extraordinary work there. So well done.
Thank you very much. Can I remind everyone to speak up, though? Maybe it's just me. Thank you very much. And Councillor Clark, I hadn't forgot you. Thank you very much for being patient and waiting.
That's all right. Under education, it said pupils not attending school regularly. Just for clarification, and I might need this in the future, what is a process? I understand high, skilled staff, but what is the process when a child refuses to go to school, the school goes through the process, but the child still refuses to go? It's not the school failing, it's just you hit the end of the road.
I'll take that one if that's okay. That's okay, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Clark. So I think that there's a number of processes that are used by schools, and then there's a number of support services that are offered by the council. So we have an emotionally based school avoidance service, who can work with the school and the young person to see if they can support them. We've got our mental health in schools teams. Usually, in our experience, the reason for total non-attendance is an emotional or well-being challenge, so it's about putting the support in place to help them. We also know it's really important to assess where their learning's at, because we know that when children miss a big chunk of school and come back, the class has moved on without them, and that's quite an intimidating place for them to be, because they're behind in their learning as well as feeling uncomfortable about being in school. So we make sure we do effective assessments and support children with that. We obviously do are requested by schools to fine parents for non-school attendance, and we do have school attendance orders. So there are a number of pathways. We'd always want to start with early help and support. We'd always want to start with encouragement, and our schools do that incredibly well. And then failing that, there are a number of other pathways that we can look at.
You okay with those? Do you need any more questions asked?
Oh yeah, I've got one more.
Okay, just the one question and the answer, then we'll come back for any other question from you.
No, this is the last one. On page 38, it says external funding. Where does that come from?
Yes, so just to outline the funding sources. So the predominant funding is from the Youth Justice Board, but obviously there's a significant contribution from the County Council as well in relation to that. And there's also a contribution from the Police and Crime Commissioner, which has been ongoing for a number of years, because obviously many of the sort of aims and objectives contained within the plan have a direct sort of alignment with what the Police and Crime Commissioner's plan contains as well. I think allied to just the funding is resource as well. So we do have a seconded police officer within the service. Used to be 2, but that's currently reduced to 1. But there's efforts being made to return that back to its previous level. There's obviously the health staff as well that I've talked about in terms of psychology, speech and language, harmful sexual behaviour, and also a seconded probation officer as well to think about those young people when they reach the ages of 17 and 18, where they're going to transition into adult services as well. So truly a multi-agency partnership way of working, and obviously hopefully the funding reflecting that as well.
Councillor Clark, are you okay with that? Thank you, thank you. We have Councillor Parkinson, please.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a bit of a strange question around, obviously we're all aware of the precarious situation the Lincolnshire Police find themselves in at the moment. I presume if the worst case scenario was to happen, that there would be quite a significant disruption in this service as well then, if Lincolnshire Police were to continue having their financial difficulties.
I think as it stands at the moment, that's not sort of materialised. I think obviously the strength of the secondment is a real positive that they're able, and I think obviously even within their own challenges that they've still seen the importance of having a seconded police officer within the service to work with children. Would we like more? Yes, we would. I think that's a fact, but I think we also have to be realistic in relation to that. I don't think on the front line that's necessarily borne out. I think there are some key, I guess, priorities that exist within sort of safeguarding, public protection within Lincolnshire Police that I'm sure that perhaps not being compromised by those budgetary sort of pressures, and obviously children and young people, and there is, whilst we talk about this from a youth justice perspective, there's also a safeguarding element to this as well. So as I said, that's not materialised. That's not, certainly I don't feel is playing out. I think we're working really close collaboration with them, because it's not just about the officer, because that officer acts as a conduit back to the force. And I think in all the different localities in which we work in, there's really strong relationships with the policing divisions in each of those, both at, I guess, an operational level on the street in terms of intelligence sharing and so forth, but at a strategic level in terms of how we plan our work, and looking at things, for example, like children in custody, and how do we sort of minimise, you know, the impact of that as well. So on lots of different fronts, I think we're working really strongly together, notwithstanding their financial pressures, obviously. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Councillor Corey.
Thank you. Thankfully, Will hasn't jumped in on this one. Councillor Clark asked a couple of really pertinent questions for specific data, and Amy and Heather said that they would supply it in writing later. Could that be supplied to the rest of the committee as well, please? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Right, I believe Councillor Grantham just wants to say something. Thank you.
Yeah, my question's to Andy. Obviously, I'm going to follow on what Councillor Parkinson about Lincolnshire maybe going into bankruptcy. If they do that and they do pool resources, and hopefully they don't, do we have any contingency plans or safeguardings?
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Grantham. So we're assured in all the conversations that we're having with the police that there will be protection for public protection matters, and that's what this falls under. So at this point, I don't feel that we need to worry about that. Also, the vast majority of this service is delivered by us. So you know, if we were to, we would need to work in partnership with the police, but a lot of the elements of this service are things that are our statutory duties that we need to deliver. So I'm not as concerned at this point about that having an impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And Councillor Cleaver, please.
Thank you. I noticed that the service applies to those up to the age of 18. And it's interesting to make the comparison, isn't it, with looked after children, for whom we have a residual responsibility up to the age of 25, which, of course, is common sense and logical, and we all know why we do that. I think I'd like some reassurance that there is something similar here. If somebody who is 19 or 20 or 21 years old is arrested or is charged with an offence committed at any time, but particularly if they were under 18 at the time of the offence, and they're still living at home with younger siblings, because they're over 18, does that make them outside this system? And if so, what is the process by which children's services are actually notified of their offending, given that they are still living at home with younger siblings who are under 18? Thank you.
I think it's just looking at that through two different lenses, and one by which, when we're working with those children and they reach that sort of transitional point, is that's a really key area for us. And I think what the inspectorate picked out and highlighted is that we don't create that cliff edge, if you like, where you just drop into those adult services. So there's a huge amount of work done perhaps before 18, obviously, in readiness and recognition that people are going to transition into services. Now, some of that, I have to say, the criminal justice system almost overrides, because when you are 19 and you don't go to the youth court, you go to the adult magistrates court. So some of that is dictated by a criminal justice system that we obviously have to work within. But what I would, I suppose, try to provide you with the assurance of is that wherever we're working with children and young people and they're reaching that transitional point, we would work with all the relevant sort of agencies to ensure that transition is smooth, effective, seamless as much as it ever can be, and that the services that they're transitioning into are ready for them and can provide what they need and want. Because obviously, if we don't do that, it entirely undermines everything that we've done in the period of time that we've worked for them. So it's absolutely at the forefront of our thinking, and some of the protocols that we have that exist around transition. And it's also a key reason as to why we've got a seconded probation officer within the service. So thinking about that movement into adult services, and they're using that probation officer as a really key conduit in terms of linking services and ensuring that's hopefully as joined up as it possibly can be. But just to, I suppose, assure you that's absolutely at the forefront of our thinking, and not wanting that cliff edge. And it's something that we're also judged upon from an inspectorate perspective as well.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. I believe Councillor Hume wants to come in there. Thank you.
Just a brief one. So on page 37 of the report, it mentions the plan will be obviously robustly monitored and reviewed, operationally and strategically. I wondered if it would be possible, without creating too much extra work for you, if this committee could have a short brief noting any key points that came up, areas of concerns, if there are any, and any other issues that may be highlighted, something quite simple, bullet-pointed review of where you are. Oh, right. So the board meets on a quarterly basis. I wondered if we could just see, to review where where things are. So could we have a very simple...
Thank you. Just to say, the County Council has representative on the board, so that is currently Councillor Paul Locke. I'm right, aren't I, Andy? Yeah. So I would suggest that any communication go through him, because I'm conscious, again, that's a multi-agency meeting, not a council meeting. But you do have a representative on there, so I think we can look at that outside, but I wouldn't want that board to report to this board, otherwise we will be duplicating the scrutiny. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for a lovely lot of questions, and thank you for your responses, and thank you for your report. Thank you for the work you do as well. So, suggestions or proposal. I propose that we support the recommendations to Executive and that our comments be passed on to Executive. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Parkinson, thank you. The comments from the committee's discussions on this report have been recorded by Tracy Johnson, Senior Scrutiny Officer, for passing on to Executive. We will now vote on this item. All those in favour, please raise your hand. I believe that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And that is carried. Thank you. And I think we've deserved a break now. Thank you very much. We'll resume at past sharp, please. Okay, we're on live again. Welcome back. So, item 7, Holiday Activities and Food Programme Annual Report for 2024-25. This item is on pages 151 to 168 of the agenda pack and provides an update of on the Holiday Activities and Food, that's HAF, Holiday Activities and Food Programme for 2024-25, and the developments of the HAF programme for 25-26 in Lincolnshire. So actions required. The actions required by the committee are to review and comment on the holiday activities and food HAF programme annual report for 24-25 and the developments to the HAF programme for 25-26. The report will be presented by Geraldine O'Neill, Sustainability and Development Manager, and Nikki Myers, Head of Service, Early Years and Childcare Support. So over to you, Geraldine and Nikki. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So as you said, this report provides the committee with an update on the Holiday Activities and Food programme and for last year and outlines some of the plans in place for the current year ahead. Since 2018, the government has funded the Holiday Activities and Food programme to support children and young people in receipt of benefits-related free school meals through holiday periods. Since the beginning of the programme, funding for the programme in Lincolnshire has been fully committed. We are delighted that the Department for Education has continued to fund the HAF programme this year, and Lincolnshire's budget is £2.8 million. In the report, we have provided you with an overview of the support this programme gives to children in receipt of free school meals, and we also allocate discretionary places for children and young people who are considered to have an additional need or are involved in targeted support. This is with a 15% discretionary funding. The HAF programme is designed to ensure a high-quality experience for children. Whilst accessing a place, they will receive a healthy and nutritious meal and a healthy level of physical activity. Children and young people who attend HAF develop a greater understanding of food, nutrition and other health-related issues and have the opportunity to take part in fun and engaging activities. HAF is now integrated within the Early Years and Childcare Support Team and is aligned with wider childcare sufficiency agendas in Lincolnshire, including wraparound childcare. Mapping of the available provision in Lincolnshire has been completed and an overview of clubs is available on the local authority's website, and families can book onto places using the booking system when vouchers have been issued to them. There is good coverage of provision across Lincolnshire and a diverse market of providers offering varied activities. We have identified the number of clubs and children accessing provision for you within the report, and we are keen to continue to monitor the take-up across all age ranges and for children with additional needs. We have added quotes from children and parents and providers within the report to give you a flavour of their feedback, and we continue to get high praise for the programme throughout many of the clubs in Lincolnshire and through the Department of Education. We have implemented a robust quality assurance process in Lincolnshire, and we are really pleased that we have seen a significant increase in the number of HAF providers registering with Ofsted. Many providers offering these clubs are now also registered to deliver the breakfast and after-school clubs as part of the wraparound programme, which is very promising. We have lots of training opportunities for the HAF providers to access and also offer them advice and expertise through our childcare and support team, at QA visits and through bespoke requests. In addition to quality assurance visits in 2024, Lincolnshire Young Inspectors visited 8 HAF providers and reported that sessions observed were delivered professionally and positively. A link to their findings has been provided to you in the report. Feedback from young people accessing HAF provision was positive, with them reporting that they enjoyed the sessions and the food provided was good. HAF in Lincolnshire has grown significantly and partnerships have also strengthened. The delivery of HAF is well established in Lincolnshire, with a high number of different providers continuing to support the delivery of HAF during 25-26. The relationships that have been made over the years has brought in significant amounts of money, extra funding to Lincolnshire, 43,000 a year to support additional activities for children. And we're really pleased with those partnerships that have been made. Send and Secretary's provision continues to be a key area for development in Lincolnshire. So for this summer, we have increased this provision and have attracted a further 6 HAF-approved providers for secondary specific clubs, which has resulted in 1,344 more places for the summer, and 9 SEND-specific clubs, which has resulted in 1,050 more places for those with specific SEND needs. So we're really pleased with that, and I can confirm that they are all fully booked for this summer. For the coming year, there is a key focus on the level of engagement from schools in encouraging children and young people to attend HAF provision, including increasing marketing and advertising activities. Schools are being encouraged to identify a named person to lead on all their out-of-school childcare activities and be that named contact for families to ensure they access before and after school and holiday provision. Further work is currently being undertaken, led by a Children's Commissioning team in partnership with the HAF team, to evaluate the impact of the HAF programme in Lincolnshire and consider options that may be available to the Council in the future. The recent government spending review confirmed a commitment to increase the investment in free school meals and continuing to invest in activities for disadvantaged children and young people. We continue to be positive about the continuation of HAF and look forward to further budget announcements from the DfE that will confirm this. Thank you, and just take any questions.
Thank you. Did Geraldine want to say anything? Okay, thank you. Oops, sorry. We'll open that up for any questions, please. I think we have Councillor Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's such a valuable asset having this programme in Lincolnshire. It just concerns me somewhat that the government have only confirmed their funding up to March 2026, and any future contributions to the programme are dependent on announcements from the Department of Education, which is a real worry. Has there been any indication from the government when they are likely to announce future funding? And if this programme was to be stopped due to no further funding, what would the impact be on Lincolnshire services? Would it have to end? Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. So we expect to hear the announcements in the autumn term to confirm future funding. We've attended national meetings in June where the DfE acknowledged the importance of the HAF programme. They've also complimented the Lincolnshire on how they deliver their HAF programme. So we deliver that alongside other childcare reforms as well. So it's all considered for sufficiency of places. We do get 2.8 million to deliver the HAF programme, so we would have to look at what would have to stop if we weren't continue to be funding. But what we're hearing is the importance of HAF, the impact that HAF has had, and so we are positive about this continuing to be funded.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a programme that came out of a young footballer pushing to ensure that young people got fed during the holidays, basically. I've watched us develop this programme. It's got better and better. I've attended several of the events and seen them improve over the years. It is a programme that really shouldn't exist. We really shouldn't have this need to have to supply food. But I think it's important not just for the supply of the food, it's also giving some young people the opportunity to learn and to mix with different people than they would do normally at school, but it's also giving those parents the chance to either go to work, stay at work. It also gives some grandparents a bit of a rest as well. So my question is, Councillor Oliver, Councillor Matthews, could I ask you both to continue or to start lobbying the government and the correct departments to ensure that this funding continues? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
The simple answer is yes. We obviously understand the importance. We are pleased to hear that national government have recognised the importance of the HAF programme and how successful it is for children and families within our communities. So simply, absolutely, we will continue to lobby the government and fight for this funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Councillor Cleaver, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've been on this committee previously, and it's well known I'm a big fan of HAF. I would encourage any member of this committee who hasn't actually been and visited one of the centres to please go and visit. It's an uplifting experience, I can tell you, very much so. And of course, it's a great example of private and public partnership, isn't it, as well, which has been put together quite quickly and has thrived. And has been a great success story. So I think that's something we shouldn't forget. And obviously one doesn't want the momentum that's been built up over the period that we've gone so far to be lost. And I think that's very important that happens. I'm sure we can be confident, as you said, that this will continue because it is so good. In that context, it isn't just about food, I don't think. It is about giving young people, children, the opportunity to experience things they won't experience within their school setting. So it's really important that many of these take place outside schools. In sports clubs, for example, the one I visited was absolutely brilliant, where there was a rugby club and the children doing all sorts of activities, which was fantastic. But also experiencing things that they can't do within the classroom in terms of culture, music, drama. I know that in Stamford we have one running at the Arts Centre. But going back to the previous discussion about libraries, wouldn't it be great if each club could involve at least one trip to a library during the weeks that they're operating? So I think there's still a lot of scope for us to improve what actually happens during these. It's not just about physical activity, food, and that's it. There's a whole question of using this as an opportunity to help the whole growing experience of our children during that period when they're going to be there in these clubs. Thank you.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Councillor Cleaver. I think we have a diverse range of clubs because children do need to experience different things. And we are involved with a book scheme, so to support that learning. I know you want to come in as well, don't you, Geraldine?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Cleaver. And actually, it's really important that a lot of the clubs that we're working with do have those relationships with employers, where we're linking up to consider apprenticeships and other schemes that some of the older young people that we're working with in secondary provision who are accessing some of that. And a lot of third-party providers will often do trips as well. So they're not just offering the club at the setting, they are doing that bespoke arrangement as well. So really important. We've also got something that we've just developed for this summer, which is involving some gym memberships in East Lindsey, again for the older age range, so that they can actually experience something different, so they're not just attending a childcare club as it might be for the younger age range, and something different that they can experience as well. So certainly looking at more of that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Parkinson, please.
Thank you, Chair. This probably isn't a question I can get an answer to today, so I'd appreciate a response in writing. But it talks about, of course, that schools have the discretion to use up to their 15% of their cohorts on certain characteristics. Now, one of the characteristics in here is Afghan refugees. Given that earlier this week we learned that there are considerably more Afghan refugees in this country than what was previously known, can I ask that we're informed of how much money has been spent on that characteristic within this, so we can have an understanding of obviously the cost to the taxpayer of those refugees?
Yes, certainly. The 15% discretionary criteria is used by schools, so they'll identify those children that they think will benefit most from HAF provision, and we can certainly look to collect that information from them specifically on the characteristics of those children that they're allocating those places to.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. Wonderful scheme. I'm reading the Lincoln City Foundation, and I also looked at another one here. It says, if your child cannot attend a booking session, you should cancel your booking as soon as possible so that another child can be offered the place. Therefore, is it oversubscribed or undersubscribed, whichever it is?
There's a real variance across clubs in the county, and some are very popular, and they do have waiting lists. And what we do within our commissioning team is really look at when the bookings are happening, look at where there are waiting lists, and what we can sometimes do is then increase the number of places that are available at those more popular clubs. And some of the clubs that may have places available will often refer families to take up those places locally where that's possible as well. So it's a constant looking at the numbers of bookings, the number of places that are available, and then shifting that accordingly, really.
Thank you very much. And I believe Councillor Grantham has a question, please.
Yeah, my question's to Nikki. I'm really happy to hear that all the SEND places being full to 151. Is there any way that we could open up more capacity to those SEND children? Is there anything I can do to make that happen? And I'm also going to take Councillor Clever's recommendation. Is there any way that I could actually visit one of these hubs as well, if that's okay?
I will certainly make sure that we can arrange you to visit one of the clubs, so I'll be in touch on that.
So as you can see, and as we stated in the report for this year, SEND places are in need, and we have increased our SEND places for this summer. We have maximum take-up of that of those places. We will continue to look at that. We'll continue to try and attract new providers into that to give children a diverse experience, and certainly to meet the needs of children within Lincolnshire, which some of those need a SEND place. So we'll continue to try and move that forward, as also with the secondary places as well, which we've seen a lot of success with both of those areas this year, with 1,050 more places this summer, which have all been allocated.
Just on
Thank
the
you
SEND
very
places
much.
as well.
Oh, sorry.
Just in terms of the budget, we have obviously a limited budget envelope, and the SEND places, we do double the amount of funding that we give to those providers, of course, for those places as well. So that's also one of the factors when we're looking at place allocation within the limitations of the budget that we've got.
Thank you very much. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to add that, the impact of this programme cannot be overstated. It is helping to reduce isolation and give children access to physical activities and learning opportunities that they might not have access to otherwise. So it really is the most wonderful programme. I would like to reiterate Councillor Cleaver and now Councillor Grantham in terms of encouraging all members to visit their local HAF provision and just see how incredible the work on the ground really is. I would also like us to promote the programme, so any way you can when you're out in your community, whether that's with your parish councils, whether that's with your schools, at any opportunity using your social media, if you can promote the programme so that more families are exposed to what they can actually access in terms of their children, that would be fantastic. And my thanks goes out to all of the teams across the council, schools, providers and community groups who make this programme such a resounding success. So well done to all involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to make a comment or maybe an answer to this question. I'm just concerned. I think it's a wonderful programme, by the way, really good. But is this going to cause a divide between those who can go on it and those who can't, and cause a problem there?
I think one of the good things is that we've embedded HAF within the early years and childcare support team, and we oversee childcare sufficiency across Lincolnshire. So what we've really tried to do is ensure that the clubs that are available include not only children that are attending through using HAF vouchers, but also a wider cohort of children. And you might have also families that are working families that are paying for provision. So we have a lot of inclusive childcare provision that's encompassing HAF and holiday provision more widely.
Thank you very much. It was just a worry there for me as we were talking, but thank you very, very much there. Okay, thank you for your questions and your comments. Nice lot of questions again, thank you. So that concludes this discussion on this item. So I propose that the committee has reviewed the report and is satisfied with the HAF programme annual report for 24-25, and that we support the developments to the HAF programme for 25-26. Can you please raise your hand if you agree on this, please? I think that's unanimous again. Thank you. So that's passed. Thank you very much. So item 8 on the agenda, Children's and Cultural Scrutiny Committee Work Programme. This item is on pages 169 to 176 and the agenda pack and sets out the committee's planned work programme for 25-26. So actions required. The actions required by the committee are to 1, review and agree the committee's work programme as set out in this report, and 2, highlight for discussion any additional scrutiny activity which could be considered for inclusion in the work programme. This report will be presented by Tracy Johnson, Senior Scrutiny Officer. Over to you, Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I have a few changes to the work programme just to report.
Firstly, a report on the Children and Young People's online counselling support service has been added to the agenda for the 5th of September. This item will be for pre-decision scrutiny prior to decision by the Executive on the 7th of October. In addition, a report on the Children's Services Supported Accommodation Review has been added to the agenda for the 5th of December meeting. And again, this is for pre-decision scrutiny prior to decision by the Executive on the 6th of January. Also on the 5th of September meeting, the update report on the Children and Young People Mental Health Transformation Programme has been removed. In place of this, the committee will be considering a number of decision reports that will come through as and when appropriate over the course of the next few meetings. So the next meeting of the committee is on the 5th of September. The committee will have 5 items for consideration. This includes the Lincolnshire Safeguarding Children Partnership Annual Report, the Children's 0 to 19 Health Services Children and Young People's Nurses Review, that again is another pre-decision report, the Fleetwood Lane Primary School Mobile Replacement and Modelling, which again is another pre-decision report, the Childcare Sufficiency in Lincolnshire 2025 from Nikki and Geraldine that was just mentioned, and in addition to that, Children and Young People's Online Counselling Support Service that has been added. I'm happy to take any suggestions. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much, Tracy. Right. Councillor Corey, sorry.
It's very close. Do we look like twins? Who said that? I'm happy with everything on there, and I note that we've got the museum, development report, but we've also got really exciting things happening across the whole of the cultural sector. So, looking at Will, what can we look at that gives us an idea of the success of all the efforts we've put into across the county of increasing and improving access to arts and cultural events? We've got some amazing things happening across the county, but there's nothing on the work programme that shows, you know, what we're doing. I think it would be a nice idea if we could have a report that explains what we're doing and who's benefiting. Thank you.
Thank you. If the committee would like it, absolutely, we could bring a report just updating on the current programme for the Usher Gallery, how that fits in with the National Portfolio Organisation programme that the Arts Council runs, and how we're delivering that both at the Usher Gallery in Lincoln, but also across the rest of the county, if the committee would like to do that.
Thank you very much, Will.
Sorry, Chair, but also we've we've organised with partners and internally some live events in Lincoln. We've got the illuminated events at Lincoln Castle. They've brought in a lot of extra footfall, and we had, as we know, a lot of public interest in what we would offer during winter after the cancellation of Lincoln Christmas Market.
Well, I mean, absolutely. Those that know me will know quite quickly that I'd be perfectly happy to come to every committee and talk at length about the amazing things that we do across the service. Obviously, I'm minded that needs to be proportionate, but I'd be very, very happy to fold in the wider event programme, to talk about some of our aspirations for the future, but whatever is desired.
Thank you very much, Will. And I must just say, we had a wonderful visit round the museum the other day with Will. It's a wonderful place if you haven't been. It's very, very interesting. I was really impressed. Thank you. Councillor Brooks next, because I know you have to get away for 12, so thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Across today's report, from the library services to the HAF programme, we've seen repeated references to digital access challenges. Families in rural and coastal areas are relying on public libraries to get online to access basic services. Yet, digital exclusion doesn't currently feature in the Scrutiny work programme. Could the committee consider a spotlight review to look at how the issues is affecting access to education, children's services and wider community engagement? Thank you.
Is there anyone in particular you'd like to answer that question, Jimmy? Or
Heather, please.
Heather, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Brooks. So my understanding is that currently reports to the Resources Committee, and digital inclusion is within that. So I'll double check that, and then what we can do is we can always circulate that report to you so that you can get that overview. But it is considered in the whole, but at a different committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a point about Fleetwood Lane Primary. Is that the one at Holbeach Spalding? It would sort of help us if, I mean, Lincolnshire's a big county and there's a lot of primary schools in it. It would help to narrow it down a bit if we had a bit more of an address to the school. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'll double check as to the location of the report itself. When it comes through, we'll have more detail in terms of the location for it. But yeah, I'll make sure we've got something added in, so to be aware. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Cleaver, please.
Thank you. Can I suggest that we have on the agenda for October to run in parallel with the school's planning a review of school admissions for the current year, and possibly it'll be too early, won't it, for 25-6, but if we could, because there are some interesting variances in terms of the number of people getting third preferences, second preferences, first preferences. It's quite uneven across the county, I believe, and it would be very interesting to see that published, because it will then inform whether the committee thinks that the planning, which is also an item on that agenda, is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to answer that, Heather? Or
yes, I think. I mean, we can bring it. We do bring a number of reports that touch on admissions. So if Councillor Cleaver will just let me go away and have a look at that, and then see if we can bring that aligned or add it into the planning one. Is that okay? Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? Okay, thank you. I propose that we approve the planned work programme for 25-26, subject to consideration of any items highlighted in today's discussion. Can you please raise your hands if you agree? Thank you. I think that's unanimous again. Thank you very much. That's carried. Well, thank you very, very much for your attendance today and for all the questions and responses back. Thank you for your very hard work as well. Thank you, and that concludes our meeting. Thank you. Safe journey home.